Now, there is some anecdotal evidence, that means experience with treating Crohn's disease patients who are seriously ill, that shows or suggests that if you combine people with serious Crohn's disease, treatment with rifabutin and clarithromycin against MAP, and also after a period of time use infliximab or Humira, it might substantially potentiate the anti-MAP action and produce dramatic improvement in the illness.
The improvement is using Rifa and I forget
clarithromycin.
Clarithromycin. The use of this together with Remicade, does this mean long-term remissions or does it mean cure?
We don't know yet. All we can say from very early clinical experience is that it can be associated with very substantial remission.
Again, for us it is completely new that we can also be infected by aerosols. Is to say the gases of let's say the excrements. Yeah, so this air, that this will come into our respiratory system and that we will achieve MAP also via that. Did I understand it well?
Yes, that is what there is some early evidence to suggest may occur. What needs to be done now is more research, which could be done, fairly quickly in a 2 or 3 year profile, to actually find out whether MAP really exists in aerosols. There is already a big scientific literature that shows that mycobacteria, like MAP is a mycobacterium, whether there's already a literature which shows that they can aerosolize, for example, from contaminated waters. My own hypothesis at this stage is that it is very likely that MAP can be transmitted to humans from sources of environmental contamination via aerosols. And studies with industrial pollutants and pathogens for plants, for example, show that such aerosols may travel hundreds or thousands of miles.
Well, then I come only to the final question, and that's the follow-up. Let's say the follow-up you are doing constantly in this, and this is very hard work you are doing, Doctor. The exports in general of the European Union of milk to China and to India, will you have reportings on that, what's going in the next 10 years?
If milk is going to be exported
Our milk from the European Union is going to be exported in UHT form, cartons, to China and to India, as far as Deutsche Welle, the German international TV, informed over internet, and they just gave us that news in 2 ways. One, to explain us that we will have to pay 25% more for our milk necessities in the coming year, and on the other hand, that there was now a certain, let's say, group cooperative established in the European Union to have our milk, let's say, exported and to keep the prices here in Europe higher. And these exports are going to China and to India now. Question is, are we going to infect those countries?
Whether or not we will be sending them an unknown number of European MAP in the milk is not known, because we don't know whether UHT process will kill every last viable MAP organism. My bet is we will be sending them a few European organisms. But in any case, China has imported Western cattle and has been doing so for years. Its people are also exposed to MAP. We have done some research ourselves on people with Crohn's disease in Nanjing. The second aspect to this is that India and China specifically, and also Korea and Japan, for example, have already got MAP problems in their livestock and in their dairy herds. China's been importing cattle, particularly from Canada and elsewhere, for several years now. Its milk production between 1978 and 2000, for example, increased 8-fold. To my knowledge, they're using the same pasteurization processes as we use, and their people will be increasingly exposed to MAP, and Crohn's disease is increasing in incidence in China. Now in India, the indicators in the literature are that Crohn's disease is also increasing, and there is a direct relationship between the MAP infecting their bison, as is called in their literature, which I interpret as their water buffalo, as well as their goats, which have also been isolated from Indian people living in India who've got Indian type Crohn's disease. So the problem of MAP in animals and MAP in humans is spreading worldwide.
I thank you very much, Doctor. Fantastic. We have a very nice questionnaire here. Now we reply to everybody, and we will also ask you if we can phone you from time to time to ask you for new matters, and even to tape it and to publish it. We will be very glad.
I'd be very pleased to do so. But there's one more thing, you know, about this whole very complicated problem, because people, you know, may think, in fact, ministries of agriculture have been known to say, what can we do about this problem? It's so large, it's so complex, the organisms are so difficult to detect, they're so difficult to destroy, what should we do? Well, the concept that there's no remedy is simply not true. The first thing we need to do is recognize the nature and scale of the problem. And the solution, in the first instance, lies in developing modern vaccines. Now, there are vaccines against MAP that have been used in animals for years.
Yeah.
These are vaccines which are MAP organisms that do grow in culture, that have generally been killed, but sometimes have been used live with a reduced virulence. And there have been many studies throughout the world of such vaccines in animals. And what they show is quite clear. That if you take a killed MAP vaccine in a little bit of oil in a syringe and you inject it into a young calf, then over the course of several years you will reduce the incidence of Johne's disease by about 10-fold. So it's a huge beneficial effect. What you don't do is eliminate the MAP infection. And actually the proportion of animals that remain infected probably doesn't change, but the amount of MAP that they excrete in their stool, and possibly secrete into the milk, although that's not yet certain, goes way down. So you're reducing the damage to the livestock industry, you are reducing the number of organisms in the infected animals, and you are reducing the contamination of the environment that otherwise continually goes on. So these vaccines are very beneficial. They are not the whole answer to the problem, but they are beneficial. And why are they not more widely used, for example, in the European Union? And the answer to that is entirely in the regulation. And this is because using such hold-kill MAP vaccines makes the animals makes about 50% of the animals that are vaccinated test false positive for the tuberculosis organism. Mm-hmm.